Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I would like to talk about some of the mistakes that we find online. So I refer to translation mistakes that sometimes you see on websites. And my goal with that is also to add some perspective because sometimes things are not quite what they seem to be. So here we've got an example. And by the way, I will be blurring all references to the brand because I don't want to get into any trouble. So just to let you know. Now we have this product here and let's see the description, or in fact the title. So it says Coconut Effect Combat Boots with Gemstones. Now if you look at the item, here it is, there's something odd here. So this is clearly not anything resembling a coconut effect. So again, the title talks about a coconut effect, but I mean, we see no such thing on the picture. What happened here? Was the translator just lousy? What could possibly explain this? So it's clearly not what we see here. How could the translator make such a mistake? It may have been that the translator was just careless, but here's the thing. I am a freelance translator and I have also worked many years as a project manager. And I think I can kind of guess what has caused this problem. So the boots are more sort of a crocodile effect. So how do you end up with coconut? Now to find out the possible reason, I will check the original. Now here's what I think is the original. So it's an Italian brand. So I'm guessing the original was in Italian. And if you look at the description or the title, it says this. It has the word Coco. Now Coco in Italian means coconut, so appears to be correct, but it's not matching the image. Now, I think in this context, Coco is being used as short for coccodrillo, which means crocodile, which makes much more sense when we use the visual reference. So, what I'm guessing that happened is something that happens a lot in our industry, and it's simply the fact that clients often don't send any visual references along with the copies or any content they want to translate. And that causes problems such as this one. So the translator probably did not have access to what we are seeing here. He or she was caught off guard and translated Coco as coconut. So I know for a fact that one of the things that happens very often is that clients will send files that look kind of like this. By the way, this is not a real file. It's not from a real client. I just made that up. I'm using the website content kind of in a reverse engineering way. So I'm just guessing. But I know for a fact when I worked as a project manager, I used to receive a lot of files like this. Sometimes we would ask for visual references just to help the translators, and the client very often would say, well, we're sorry, we don't have them. You have to work with what we've got. So the translator would see perhaps this file as a reference, and when we import this to the cat tool, it will look something like this. So here it is. This is MemoQ, which is the cat tool that I use. So they will simply see the source text. They may have some reference as a comment if the project manager decided to add some sort of reference just to say what type of article it is. But as you can see, the translator would have no way to know exactly how the product looks like. So it's a perfectly understandable mistake if you are caught off guard. So there's really no way to guess that this was meant to be coccodrillo instead of just Coco, which is just short. For some reason, the brand decided to label the item that way. Now, one thing that I noticed as well, in fact, the description does have the full word coccodrillo, so this could indicate that the translator was just careless, but also not necessarily. So hear me out on this one. It may have happened, for instance, that this was part of a huge file and that it got split between more than a translator. And clients sometimes don't want to pay for a proofreader to just make sure everything is looking fine. That could be one reason. And the other reason as well could be simply that, for instance, this description was already stored in the TM or translation memory. And for that reason, when the project manager was preparing the file, there was no need to translate this again, or simply it was already translated. So sometimes the translator will receive the file in CATSUL, so either MemoQ or Tradus or any other, and they will see something like this. So here it is. It may have happened that this was already stored in the TM and it was just locked. So there's a way to actually do this automatically, even on huge files. So the result was what you can see here. So yeah, I think it's a clear mistake, and I hope this gave you some perspective on what may have happened. So it's not only simply the fact that the translator is a bad translator. Sometimes he or she is just not working with the necessary information. And that's something I think it should change in our industry. So I think clients should be a bit more aware of what is necessary for us to perform a good job. And sending visual references, it's definitely very important. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like what you see, I may consider starting a video series on common mistakes or just weird mistakes that we find online. If you are aware of any example like this one, just let me know in the comments below. Other than that, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.